Live from the Loft 100 studios in sunny San Diego, California. 110 million TV homes strong, 150 radio stations in 175 countries. Thanks to BizTV, American Life Network, Bloomberg Television, Biz Talk Radio Network, as well as iHeartRadio and American Forces Radio Network in 175 countries and all the ships at sea. Big Biz Show's on the air. Sully here, Costa there, producer Greg there, and the DT team over there.
No,
wow,
chair.
I just pointed at you guys to stop. How about this, huh?
That's pretty good. Give me a metal arc.
Bigger pistols?
Come on. Oh.
They're not used to that. Ready?
There we go.
Pulled the gap.
Gangsta! Well, you heard the song, right? Hey, one of our favorite things I mentioned before is when we get emails, and Greg gets a lot of emails for people trying to get on the show. Most of them not credible, I would argue.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I'll sort through them.
You sort through them?
That's not going to work.
No. Well, I mean, truly. I mean, we don't just have small cap companies. We have everybody, you know, self-published authors on.
Dear Greg, I have a widget.
Why not try?
Right.
Might as well.
Do you get ones that say, Dear Tom, would love to be on the Big Biz?
Yes, yes.
Well, one such one investor, I believe it was an investor or a market participant of a company called Tempest Therapeutics, got a hold of us a few weeks ago, and we got the CEO, Steve Brady, on the line with us. Turns out to be a really interesting company. Their stock symbol TPST. You can go to tempestix.com. That's T-I-X. TempestTX.com is probably the best way to do it. And once again, we get the pleasure of talking to Steve Brady. Steve, how are you? I love your work at the New England Patriots, and one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time. Oh, that's Tom Brady, right?
Yeah,
Sorry.
he's related.
How are you, Steve? Good to see you.
I'm good, thank you. If I had that guy's money, I wouldn't need the capital market. But, thank you.
You'd invest in this company. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for having me on the show.
Of course. There is a significant need for new and effective cancer treatments. And you folks who are a clinical stage company are taking that head on. I'm gonna give you the opportunity for those people that didn't get to catch your first interview to sort of talk about that again and talk about what you guys are up to and how you're getting along in that arc of the FDA story, your own research, so on and so forth. So take it away, Steve.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I appreciate it. And thanks again for having me on the show. Cancer is obviously incredibly difficult. It's not one thing, it's hundreds of things. And what gets us up in the morning, given that sometimes insurmountable odds, is the need that remains. And one of the things I love about Tempest and why I joined the company is all four of our programs, and we have four novel programs ranging, starting all the way back at what we believe is a novel target that no one else is working on in early research, all the way up to a global randomized study in first-line liver cancer. The reason we do it is because, with a few really minor exceptions, the unmet need persists significantly all around the world.
Well, let's talk about that lead program, which is the randomized study in first-line liver cancer and your expected data this year. Let's get granular on that. Talk about that. How are we looking?
Yeah. No, I'm happy to. So for folks who don't know, notwithstanding how many efforts have been made in liver cancer, the standard of care, which is great and has moved the needle for millions of patients, when they did the phase 3 study for that therapy, you were looking at a median life expectancy of around 19 months. And this is for newly diagnosed cancer.
And that's important. Why? Because it's not just diagnosed cancer; it's newly diagnosed cancer. And you and I talked about this off the air. That's a significant difference.
Yeah, those are your best patients, right? When you're healthy, the first time you get diagnosed, right? Even metastatic cancer, you haven't tried a bunch of therapies. Your body hasn't become acclimated to things, and you're basically a blank slate. And so there's all this opportunity. And what we like to see is what happened in, say, an example like multiple myeloma. I worked in that years ago, right? When I started, the median life expectancy was 3 years. Now I'm not up to date on everything, but it's over 10 years because people crowded into the space. Liver cancer, unfortunately, the needle hasn't moved very much, which is why we're so excited about the study we have ongoing. And as you mentioned, we're expecting data this year, which is our lead molecule, TPST-1120, plus the standard of care versus the standard of care. And we're hoping we can really significantly change things for patients.
Hey, I know Mike's got a question real quick. That TPST-1120, that's an oral medicine, correct? That's not a chemo in the vein, or which is significantly also different, correct?
Yeah, so it's oral and it's elegant, right? So one of the things that I love about Tempest is everything we work on are independent, right? We're not shackled to a single hypothesis or platform. Everything we do, we take a fresh look at each one of those things you're showing right now. They're independent from each other. And 1120 does two things. It mechanistically, which again we find exciting, is one, it uses the immune system, so we frame that as an immune-mediated effect. But we also picked this target because we believe, and the data should show this when we're ready to talk about it, that it's also hitting the cells directly. So not everybody who has cancer, their immune systems are not created equally, and that's a really important distinction, because if you have a robust immune system, when you get diagnosed cancer, you have more options than people who don't. And so it was important to us that lead program be able to potentially help both of those groups of patients.
Steve, as far as the age group with liver cancer, is it pretty indiscriminate? Are we talking, year age 1 to age 100, or is there a specific group that it seems to hit more?
Yeah, Mike, it's older folks predominantly. And there's different types of liver cancer, right? It can be driven by different things in your body. There's genetic, which would be on your more indiscriminate camp. And then there's folks who got different types of hepatitis, right? Okay. And they develop liver cancer later. What we're hoping, because again, the target we picked is called PPAR alpha, not to get overly, nerd out on you guys, but we picked this target for a couple of reasons. One, it's expressed broadly in liver cancer, right? We think that's a way to go right after those cells. But also it's relevant to work with the existing drugs in that space. So we think it's kind of like multiple shots on goal, right? We're going after the cells directly. We're going to work on the immune system, but we also think we're going to work well with multiple classes of drugs.
I want to talk about your phase 1, because that's completed. And you guys received pretty positive clinical data on that, correct?
We did. That's the other thing about 1120. So when we start out and we barely have molecules, we look at the target and we say, where should we go with this based on the target, right? It's a thoughtful, approach to drug development. And there were 3 top indications that came out in solid tumors. We're not even talking about blood cancers, which is a whole nother thing to talk about. In solid tumors, it was liver cancer, RCC, and this small cancer called cholangiocarcinoma. And Sully, the data, we were really excited. In our phase 1, we saw really interesting clinical responses in 2 out of those 3. Yeah. And we got what's called a podium presentation at the biggest cancer meeting in the world called ASCO that happens in Chicago every year. And they selected our phase 1 and said, we should talk about this live, stream it and at a podium, because this is really interesting. And at that time, we hadn't seen HCC patients yet because of the timing of enrolling with COVID and everything, and academic sites are the sites that tend to enroll liver cancer patients, and they were focused on COVID, as they should have been. And so now this is an opportunity for us to talk about liver cancer patients, and we did get an early peek. We talked about it in April. We had a webcast. It was not a complete package that we've guided everybody to for the second half of the year, but everything in that early peak was directionally correct. So we're excited about what's coming.
Wow. And Steve, you have additional programs, correct?
Yes, we do. Everybody's eyes have been so focused on the 1120 program, but there's a second program in the clinic called TPST-1495, which looks at a completely separate pathway. Interestingly, for those of us who played sports and are big ibuprofen people, it's actually in that pathway.
BIP. I'm a BIP.
Oh man, 800 mgs 3 times a day.
I'll tell you. Me too. No, I'm not kidding.
Yeah, seriously.
In fact, I filled my Altoids thing with it so people wouldn't think I just chew them. I'm on 6 right now.
It's a magical drug.
It really is.
To be serious, physicians, including my colleagues here were practicing cancer physicians for years, everybody's been interested in that pathway for cancer. There's just never been the right studies done. So that's one place we're looking. Those data it's a 2024 story. That's not a now story. And then there's this pathway called, or a target called STING. That is one of probably the top 5, 10 targets in drug development that we haven't hit yet. It's this early prehistoric target in your body, part of your immune system that's related to fighting cancer. We have a really exciting third program in that pathway. We're trying to hit a target called TREX1. And then there's our fourth program, which we haven't released publicly. We licensed it in from Cal across the bay, and we think it's a novel target that no one else is working on, so we're excited about that as well.
Hey, Steve, I've got about 30 seconds left or so, but I want you to talk about overall, as a country, how are we doing in the fight against cancer?
Are we allowed to get political on the show?
You can, whatever you want. Come on, it's your show. By the way, you're going to see a lot more of Steve now that you said that.
Yeah, no, we're the #1 producer of novel, anti-cancer drugs on the planet, hands down. And so it's a delicate ecosystem, as you might imagine. And so there are some recent developments in Washington that did not help. the ecosystem, and I'm an optimist. As a drug developer, you have to be an optimist, and I'm hoping that we're going to fix those recent the recent law that came in, because it will not. We will see drug numbers go down.
Yeah, and that's a scary part. We need drug numbers and efficacy going up, not down.
Absolutely.
Steve, we'll see you next week, hopefully. I'd love to have you every day if I can. Really good stuff.
Thank
Steve
you, guys.
Brady.
Appreciate it.
Tempest Therapeutics is the name of the company. Stock symbol TPST. TPST. Go check them out. You can go to Tempest. Am I right there? TempestTX.com. More Biz coming up. Stand by. Doc Shane.